think you're in control of your own mind? Think again. Every day, in ways you don't even notice, dark triad personalities, those masters of manipulation, narcissism, and Machiavellian cunning, are pulling your strings like a puppeteer in the shadows. They don't need brute force to dominate you. They infiltrate your thoughts, your emotions, even your deepest insecurities, and turn them against you. How? By weaponizing human nature itself. You've felt it, the coworker who always gets their way while leaving you questioning your own logic, the partner who makes you feel guilty for their mistakes, the leader who demands loyalty while offering nothing in return. These aren't accidents. They're calculated moves in a game you didn't even know you were playing. The dark triad thrives on your blindness, your naivety, your unwillingness to see the world for what it really is, a battlefield of influence. So let me ask you, when was the last time you questioned why you feel the way you do, or why certain people always seem to have power over you? If you're not asking these questions, you're already losing. The dark triad doesn't operate like a villain in a movie, twirling a mustache and announcing their evil plans. No, they're far more dangerous because they're invisible. They exploit the very fabric of human psychology, our need for approval, our fear of rejection, our desire to belong. They know that the easiest way to control someone isn't through force, but through perception. They make you believe their reality is yours. And the scariest part? You let them, because admitting that you've been manipulated is a blow to your ego, a crack in the illusion of your autonomy. But here's the truth. Power isn't just about strength. It's about awareness. The moment you start seeing the strings, you can start cutting them. So tell me, are you ready to open your eyes? Or will you keep walking through life as someone else's puppet? Let's shatter another illusion. You believe you're immune to manipulation because you're too smart or self-aware. That's exactly what the dark triad wants you to think. Overconfidence is the perfect smokescreen for control. These psychological predators don't target the weak, they target the unaware. They study you, learn your triggers, and then exploit them with surgical precision. Ever met someone who made you feel special, only to later realize they were mirroring your desires back at you? That's not charm, that's strategy. Narcissists, Machiavellians, and psychopaths don't play by the rules of empathy or fairness. They play to win. And their favorite move? Making you believe you're the one in charge while they steer you from the shadows. Think about the last time you made a decision you later regretted. Was it really your choice? Or were you nudged there by someone who knew which buttons to press? Dark triad personalities weaponize reciprocity. They give you just enough attention, validation, or favor to make you feel indebted. Then, when they call in the debt, you comply without questioning why. They exploit guilt, obligation, and even your own kindness to bend you to their will. And the most insidious part? You'll rationalize it. You'll tell yourself, they're not that bad. Or maybe I overreacted. That's not conscience speaking, that's cognitive dissonance, your mind's desperate attempt to reconcile the truth with the lie you've been fed. Wake up. The game isn't fair, and the only way to stop losing is to stop playing by their rules. You want to know the real reason dark triad personalities dominate social hierarchies? Because they understand a brutal truth most people refuse to accept. Morality is a handicap in the game of power. While you're busy worrying about fairness, they're exploiting every loophole in human decency to get ahead. They don't hesitate. They don't overthink. They act ruthlessly and without remorse, and society rewards them for it. Look at the CEOs, the politicians, the influencers who rise to the top not because they're the most competent, but because they're the most willing to manipulate perceptions. They spin narratives, manufacture loyalty, and discard people like used tools, all while being celebrated as visionaries or leaders. Meanwhile, the empathetic, the cautious, the principled are left wondering why they keep hitting invisible ceilings. But here's the twist. You don't have to become like them to beat them. You just have to understand their playbook. Dark triad personalities rely on one universal weakness, the human aversion to discomfort. They push boundaries because they know most people would rather comply than confront. They thrive in ambiguity because most won't demand clarity. They gaslight because most would rather doubt themselves than face the ugly truth. The antidote? Radical awareness. Call out the manipulation. Refuse to engage in their distorted reality. Power doesn't always go to the strongest. It goes to those who refuse to be played. So ask yourself, are you willing to see the game for what it is? Or will you keep pretending the rules are fair? The greatest trick the Dark Triad ever pulled was convincing the world that their behavior is rare, that only sociopaths or monsters operate this way. But here's the uncomfortable reality. These traits exist on a spectrum, and you've encountered them far more often than you realize. That boss who takes credit for your work, the friend who subtly undermines your confidence, the romantic partner who isolates you from others while claiming it's for your own good. These aren't anomalies. They're case studies in low-grade Dark Triad behavior. And because they don't fit the cartoonish image of evil, you dismiss them, which is exactly how they maintain control. The banality of manipulation is its greatest strength. Why does this matter? Because when you label Dark Triad traits as something only extreme predators possess, you blind yourself to the everyday psychological warfare happening around you. The coworker who jokingly insults you to test your boundaries. The family member who weaponizes guilt to get compliance. These are the foot soldiers of influence, whether they realize it or not. And the more you tolerate these small violations, the more you train others to see you as a target. The solution isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Start noticing when people consistently prioritize their needs over yours while disguising it as concern. Observe who reacts with anger when challenged versus curiosity. These are the tells. The Dark Triad relies on societal politeness to operate unchecked. Will you keep giving them that courtesy? Let's dissect the most potent weapon in the Dark Triad arsenal: emotional hijacking. These individuals don't just manipulate your actions, they reprogram your nervous system. Through cycles of intermittent reward and punishment, they condition you like a lab rat. One day, they're showering you with praise. The next, they're icily indifferent. This unpredictability triggers the same addictive response as a slot machine, keeping you desperate for their approval. Ever found yourself obsessing over someone who treats you poorly, rationalizing their behavior while your self-worth erodes? That's not love or loyalty, that's trauma bonding. And it's engineered. The neuroscience behind this is terrifying. When subjected to hot and cold treatment, your brain releases stress chemicals like cortisol alongside dopamine hits during rare moments of validation. This creates a biochemical addiction stronger than logic. Dark Triad personalities intuitively understand this. They don't need textbooks when they can see your pupils dilate when they praise you, or notice how quickly you backtrack when they frown. They turn your own biology against you. The escape: detachment through understanding. Recognize that the anxiety you feel around them isn't chemistry, it's conditioning. The moment you stop craving their validation is the moment their power dies. But here's the real question. Are you addicted to the roller coaster because it's exciting, or because you've forgotten what stability feels like? Consider this paradox. Dark Triad personalities often appear more authentic than the average person, and that's precisely what makes them so dangerous. While most people dilute their opinions to be palatable, these individuals radiate unfiltered conviction. They state uncomfortable truths or clever lies with such certainty that you question your own reality. This isn't charisma, it's strategic authenticity, a weaponized version of honesty designed to bypass your critical thinking. When someone speaks with absolute confidence, your brain instinctively assigns credibility, regardless of the content. That's why the best manipulators mix brutal truths with self-serving fiction. The truths anchor their lies in plausibility. This explains why you've been cornered into agreeing with statements that later made you uneasy. It's why cult leaders can convince people to abandon families, or why abusive partners make victims apologize for being abused. The dark triad understands that human brains are pattern-seeking machines. If someone consistently displays flashes of genuine insight, we'll assume everything they say carries equal weight. The antidote? Practice conscious skepticism. Separate the message from the delivery. Just because something is said boldly doesn't make it true. And ask yourself this: when you last encountered someone who spoke with unshakable certainty, did you actually verify their claims, or did you surrender to the gravitational pull of their conviction? Here's a disturbing truth. Dark triad personalities don't just manipulate individuals. They engineer entire social systems to serve them. Look at any toxic workplace, cult, or abusive relationship, and you'll find the same blueprint: controlled chaos. They create environments where normal rules don't apply, where loyalty is constantly tested, where confusion becomes the norm. In these spaces, your natural instincts to seek fairness, clarity, or reciprocity become liabilities. Why? Because predictable systems empower the collective, while chaotic systems empower those willing to exploit the disorder. This is how mediocre talents rise to positions of unchecked authority. They don't outperform, they outmaneuver. The psychological brilliance of this strategy is its deniability. There's always a plausible excuse for the dysfunction. It's just how things are, or you're too sensitive. Meanwhile, the manipulator positions themselves as the only stable force in the storm, the voice of reason amidst the chaos they created. This is how dictators consolidate power, how narcissistic parents maintain control, how petty tyrants rule offices. They don't need to convince everyone, just enough to make dissent seem irrational. Your survival instinct in these environments isn't to fight back. It's to adapt to the madness. That's the trap. The moment you accept absurdity as normal, you've already lost. So ask yourself, in what areas of your life have you been gaslit into believing dysfunction is inevitable? And more importantly, who benefits from you believing that? The ultimate irony? Dark triad personalities often believe their own lies, and that's what makes them so convincing. Through years of practiced delusion, they've mastered strategic self-deception, a psychological sleight of hand where they rewrite their own memories and motives to fit their desired narrative. Ask a narcissist about their failures, and they'll describe themselves as the victim. Press a Machiavellian about their manipulations, and they'll frame it as just being strategic. This isn't just lying to others. It's lying so thoroughly to themselves that their performance becomes indistinguishable from sincerity. And that's why your gut screams confusion around them. You're not detecting deception, you're encountering someone who's fully bought into their own myth. This explains why logical arguments fail against dark triad types. You can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Their beliefs aren't based on evidence. They're emotional scaffolding holding up a fragile ego. When facts contradict their self-image, they don't adjust their beliefs. They distort reality to preserve their narrative. The frightening implication? Much of human history, wars, betrayals, injustices, has been driven by people who were absolutely convinced of their own righteousness while committing atrocities. This is the danger of unchecked dark triad traits scaling into positions of power. So the critical question isn't just, are they lying to me? It's, have they so thoroughly lied to themselves that the truth no longer matters? You've been taught that the truth will set you free. But in the hands of a dark triad personality, truth is just another weapon, to be concealed, distorted, or deployed at the perfect moment for maximum impact. They understand something most people don't. Information control is the ultimate power. By carefully rationing what you know, a process intelligence agencies call compartmentalization, they ensure you never have the full picture. Ever noticed how certain people always seem to have inside information that makes you dependent on their version of events? Or how they'll suddenly reveal damning truths about others when it serves them? This isn't honesty, it's information warfare. The psychological effect is devastating. When you can't trust what you know, you become hyper-dependent on the manipulator's narrative. This is how cult leaders maintain control, how abusive partners isolate their victims, how corrupt systems perpetuate themselves. The Dark Triad's real genius isn't in their lies. It's in their curation of truth. They'll give you just enough reality to make their fiction plausible. Then watch as you connect dots that lead exactly where they want. The antidote? Radical information independence. Verify everything. Seek multiple sources. Recognize that any person or system trying to limit your access to information is fundamentally adversarial. Ask yourself, in what areas of your life have you accepted someone else's version of reality simply because it was the only version offered? Here's the ultimate revelation. Dark Triad personalities aren't some alien force. They're the inevitable product of a world that rewards manipulation. Every time we applaud the con artist who beat the system, every time we excuse the ruthless CEO as just business, every time we romanticize the bad boy or girl who treats people as toys, we feed the beast. The Dark Triad doesn't thrive despite society. It thrives because of it. These individuals are simply the most unapologetic players in a game we're all forced to play. The difference? They know it's a game. This realization isn't meant to make you cynical but powerful. Once you understand that much of human interaction is a series of power exchanges, you can navigate it consciously rather than reactively. You don't have to become manipulative to be manipulation-proof. Awareness is armor. The moment you see the strings, you can choose whether to play along, cut them, or, most powerfully, restoring them in your favor. The Dark Triad's greatest fear isn't exposure. It's encountering someone who can't be manipulated because they understand the mechanisms better than the manipulator does. So I leave you with this final question. Now that you see the game, will you keep being a piece or become a player? The choice is yours, but remember, not choosing is still a choice. And in this world, the unwilling are forever the used.